Well. Clemson Tiger fans, college football fans, welcome back to the 11th episode of the All In Show here on the Voice of College Football Clemson channel. I'm your host, Tiger Paul Craven. I got my boy Jordan Bowman in the back. He's going to be joining us momentarily. But before we get into that, before we bring Jordan on, before we get into tonight's show, let me ask you guys, if you are not subscribed already, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Give us a like. This is a live video, and we really appreciate the like as well. It really helps us out on our live videos. We're trying to grow this channel. We're trying to bring more people in so that we can have more conversations with Clemson fans, with college football fans, and everyone alike. So please go ahead and do that for us. And then I see a couple people talking about an echo. If you guys could, John Sarin gets in and says, reload it. It'll fix the echo. I'm sorry if you guys are hearing an echo. If you continue to hear it after reloading the video, please let me know, and we will try to fix it as best we can. But also, if you guys did not know, the Mark Rogers brand or the Voice of College Football brand has launched merch. Go check it out on the main channel, the mother channel, which is the Voice of College Football. Head over there. There's a bunch of great videos. There's a bunch of team channels, just like the one you're viewing tonight. So check that out. Support the Mark Rogers channel. Support our group of team channels. That's super important to us, and we appreciate you all stopping by. We got 16 people in the chat right now. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on my co-host, fan favorite, my buddy Jordan Bowman. Jordan,
what's going on?
What's up, man? How you doing tonight?
Doing good. Kind of recovering this week. It's been a really, really eventful week, not only in my personal life, but for Clemson athletics.
Absolutely.
I know some people in the comment section that follow me on Twitter and know all of my thoughts about everything that's been going on around Clemson athletics. So I'm just I've got a lot to say. It's going to be football first, obviously, on this show, but I've got some opinions, and I know some of you guys are waiting on a certain other sports program on this campus. So
Yeah. Absolutely.
I can't wait to get to that. But other than that, just trying to deal with the time change. My sleep schedule's all messed up. I'm sure yours is too.
Oh man,
But
it's crazy. The whole daylight savings time, the losing an hour or springing an hour forward, and all of that kind of stuff. But those of you that may be new to the show tonight, maybe no one is, but we tend to enjoy getting my boy Jordan Bowman off on a rant on that certain sport that we will get into later. But as always, it is football first and foremost on this channel. That's what our primary focus is here. But of course, we focus on all Clemson sports as well. We focus on college football in general as well. Yeah, let's get into it. Let's do a shout out to the comment section, Jordan. Everybody's in here tonight. We got 16 people in here in the live chat so far tonight. So I think those 16 people deserve a shout out if they're already commenting in our live chat. What do you say?
yeah, let's do it. Yeah,
Absolutely. So we got Edward in here. Oh boy, he's already starting with the basketball talk. We'll get into that later. Y'all hold your horses. Don't worry. We will get the one and only Jordan Bowman fired up about basketball before tonight's show's over. I assure you of that. That will happen. WB2X2DX gets in the comments section. Shout out to him. Thank you, man. You always stop by. You always show out. We appreciate you coming in here. The boys are late again. Hey. We weren't late. We were letting you guys filter in and before we got started. But I get what you're saying there. John Sarin gets in saying, look forward to Jordan's update. Oh, boy. Everybody's looking forward to it, Jordan. But guess what? We're going to keep them waiting for a little bit. I hit the snooze button, did I? WB2XD? Maybe I did. Ben Adams gets in. How you doing, Ben Adams? Thanks for stopping by. Let's see. Who else we got in here? Who else? Let's see. My wife's in here, Courtney. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate you. You guys hit the subscribe button. Hit that like button. Hey, our boy Smitty's in here. If you guys remember Smitty from our post-game live reactions, he's in here tonight. How you doing, man? Appreciate you stopping by. Appreciate the support.
good to see you, man.
Angel Moss is in here. What's up, y'all? How everyone doing? We're doing good, man. We are doing good. We appreciate you stopping by as well. Let's see. We got Show Out Gaming in here. He said he's trying to be a third co-host. Okay. Let me interview for the job.
Hey, Yeah, the tryouts will be announced
Yeah.
shortly. So
Yeah.
make sure you,
We'll work on tryouts for more co-hosts, I guess. Show Out Gaming's in here. Todd Gwynn's in here. Jacob is in here. So thank you guys all for being here tonight. We really do appreciate you. This is not a live show that really means anything if no one stops by and watches us, right? So we really do appreciate you guys stopping by and showing support for me and your boy Jordan Bowman over here. We really do enjoy doing this show. We enjoy chopping it up with you guys, talking Clemson football. We got a lot of spring practice to talk tonight. We have a lot of coaching interviews to talk about tonight and different position groups that we'll mention and that we will get through. But before we get into all of that, Jordan, how was your week, man?
It was good, man. It was
good. Awesome.
Just busy.
Busy.
Trying to find different distractions. Some of them good, some of them bad. We'll talk about those.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't complain. Can't complain. How about you?
My week was pretty busy. I'm in a cycle right now of busy at work, a lot of teaching, big class right now. Just all in on work right now. Just lots of long days and stuff like that. Whoa, hold up. Jacob got in here and he took a shot at you, Jordan. Did you see that?
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Do you want to respond to that, Jordan?
I don't know if it's a genuine question or not. So Jacob asked, "Am I an Ohio State Buckeye fan?" Well, the answer to that question, Jacob, would be is pretty easy. Is the sky green?
Yeah.
That'll
Is the sky green? Maybe to some people, but I guarantee you it's not green to Jordan Bowman. No, he is not an Ohio State Buckeyes fan. If you go back and watch some of our other shows, I don't know, how long you've been around the show. We appreciate you stopping by, but we got a couple really good segments on Ohio State, their fan base overall, and their football team. So, no, we are not Ohio State fans. Jordan Bowman is not. We have a definitely a hate relationship with Ohio State.
Yeah. We love Mark, though.
We love Mark. Yeah, absolutely. Mark gives us the platform that we have to talk to you guys and chop it up about Clemson football and all that kind of stuff. But we definitely have a hate relationship with Ohio State and their football team. WB2DX says, you guys and the Morgan T Show. That is the Morgan Thomas Show. Check him out on YouTube. He's got a great show over there.
Great
are my go-to for all things Clemson. Morgan Thomas, he might be a little more plugged in than us. He's got a little more privilege. He's got them press passes that he can exercise. I feel like that's unfair. What's up with that? Morgan Thomas needs to share some of his insider information with us.
I'll have to DM him. We're gonna have to
maybe
see if we can get some setups, get some ins.
Maybe we can collab with the insider that is Morgan Thomas. What do you think about that? That would
I might have to message him and get something worked out, because
we do our shows at pretty much the same time every week on the same day. So maybe one of these weeks we could combine forces and do a show together. That'd be pretty cool, I think. Let us know in the comment section if that's something you guys would be interested in. But yeah, thank you guys for getting in here. But we are going to get into our spring practice update. It looks like John Sarian would like us to coordinate with Morgan Thomas. So maybe that's something we'll look into. Maybe that's something we bring you in the future. So we'll see how it goes. But let's get into spring practice, right? Dabo Swinney came out and he had his press conference following the first live scrimmage that they had
Yeah, they get 3 live scrimmages during the spring. This is the first one, and they'll have another one, and then the spring game counts as the third. So
right. So their first live scrimmage that he had, and he kind of justified it as kind of a half scrimmage, and he talked about a couple key points coming out of that scrimmage. I know he mentioned Antonio Williams and how he had a great day. He caught a touchdown pass. I think Cade Klubnik did pretty well in the scrimmage. He talked about the first thing I want to touch on that he really talked about that we can dive into is the offensive line, right? He talked about the offensive line and kind of how they're playing a little bit of musical chairs along the offensive line. We're missing a couple pieces along the offensive line. So kind of what was your takeaway from Dabo kind of making that comment about playing musical chairs along the offensive line, it being a real, work in progress, something that they're, trying people at different positions and figuring out certain people's strengths. And, for me personally, that sounds like a little bit of worry on the offensive line. I know we're missing a couple key pieces in Marcus Tate and
Walker Parks.
Walker Parks, thank you. And Walker Parks, a couple huge pieces that we presume will be starters next year. So we are missing some key pieces along the offensive line, but it is a little worrisome to hear your head coach refer to your offensive line as musical chairs. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's the thing about the spring. You're going to hear a lot of it's good. The thing about spring practice is that that's the time where teams do the most experimenting, and they try to find where guys fit the best. And I think the goal for this offseason, at least for the offensive line group, I think that's always been the case for this staff, and what they want to do is they want to build that depth. And we've talked about it in the past. It's last season's offensive line, I thought they took a huge step forward, especially the starting 5, but the depth was still kind of questionable. And when you had guys like Marcus Tate go down, there were some struggles, and obviously Jordan McFadden was playing with injury late in the year. And so when you really didn't have that depth you could rely on and go to, it kind of hurt Clemson in some games down the stretch. So I think the goal for this staff is to really start getting guys prepared. And so while Marcus Tate and Walker Parks being out isn't ideal, I do think it does give an opportunity for a lot of the guys, deeper in the depth chart to really get some work in, get first and second team reps, and get a lot of action. Guys like, obviously Tristan Lay is probably the most important guy as far as who we're looking at this spring, and Dabo's had some really positive comments about him. But even on the interior, guys like Trent Howard and Bryn Tucker and Mitchell Mays, Ryan Linthicum, Dietrich Pennington, guys like that have not really played a lot of ball, are really starting to get more reps and get worked into that rotation. I think that's huge for building depth, building continuity. And I think it's a good thing because, Garrett Riley, he's the new guy in the room. And obviously he's not the offensive line coach, but he does oversee them, obviously, as the offensive coordinator. And so he gets to see what guys work best together, and what the specific skill sets of his entire room is. And so I think it's beneficial in that way as well. So it's probably not pretty at times if you're at practice and watching it, but I do think it's going to be a helpful thing in the long run.
Yeah, obviously the idea, and we've talked about it in the past, right? We talked about it leading into spring, coming out of the season. We talked about, the issues that Clemson had late in the season due to injuries along the offensive line, right? We talked about when, we had really big injuries on the offensive line. Guys behind them could not step up and do what they needed to do. So it is encouraging in that sense, what you're talking about, building the depth, getting reps for a lot of young guys, maybe getting reps for some freshmen or some guys that, have kind of been around a while and haven't necessarily been able to get on the field a whole lot or get a lot of game reps. So that is a good thing. But, part of the worrisome part is, these guys aren't getting all the install and the stuff. We got a new offensive coordinator coming in, and although Dabo has said that we have, it's kind of the same, philosophy on offense, a lot of the terminology and stuff is changing, but that can be made up with mental reps and stuff. I'm sure those guys are sitting on the sidelines when they're not in treatment, when they're not doing things to recover from their specific injuries, that they're really getting those mental reps and studying the playbook and all that kind of stuff. But there's no real substitute for being on the field running the plays, right? So there is a downside in that. But I do agree that we could gain some things in developing some solid offensive line depth, which is what we have lacked in recent years, right? It's when we suffer, you go back to last season, when we suffered the injury of Marcus Tate, right? It really affected the Clemson offensive line, right? We saw it in real time in games. So that is a good thing that we can develop the depth. And we hope that that translates into, something that could be beneficial to the team. Should we encounter, God forbid, an injury to a key offensive lineman this season, because injuries happen. You can't control them. They happen all the time in college football, especially major college football, and you have to be able to adapt and overcome those injuries. So getting these guys some early reps in spring could be a good thing, and hopefully these guys are healed up and ready after spring. They can participate in the summer workouts and really getting into that stuff, and then transitioning into fall camp in the season. We really hope that they can really improve from that and go 100% into the season. So it looks like our offensive line has some question marks, but there's also some high praise coming out for some of those young guys that you mentioned, Lithicum and stuff like that, coming from Dabo Sweeney. He's seeing some stuff from those guys. So that's always important as well. We need guys behind those solid starters that we're thinking of. And I guess the best way to find your best five is to play a bunch of dudes at a bunch of different positions and figure out who's the best guy, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I will say, and one more thing before we move on from the offensive line, and it really just kind of applies to the room in general. I do think it was really interesting how, and a really good sign that Dabo was really praising how quickly the team seemed to be picking up a lot of stuff. They were able to, from what he said, they've been able to install a ton. And so, that's either a testament to the, or both, a testament to the learning ability of this group, or the simplicity of Riley's system and how digestible it is for this group. So, I think those are all, really good signs. And so it makes me feel a little bit better about the guys that aren't playing right now and aren't getting reps, because I do think there's a good chance that when they're ready, they'll have enough time to really get acclimated and pick it up pretty fast. So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got some people in the comment section talking about the Clemson spring game and how they can watch that. So apparently, according to them, the Colorado game is the only one scheduled on ESPN.
That's true.
Clemson's going to be relegated to the ACC Network Extra. So I think you guys, so if you have the ACC Network, I think you can log on to the ESPN app and view that game through the ESPN app. It may not be through whoever you have cable through, whether that be a streaming service or whatever the case may be. But I think you can log on to the ESPN app, use your TV provider, and then probably watch it that way. So if you guys were looking to, watch the Clemson spring game, that's probably the best way to watch it, is probably going to be streaming it through the ESPN app. So unfortunately, that is what it is, right? I read an article that was posted, I think yesterday, about Mike Reed, and he kind of talked about the defense, specifically the defensive backs, because, obviously that's who he coaches. And he really talked about a lot about the hunger of this defense heading into this season and kind of the theme of unfinished business for this defense. It really feels like this defense is heading into this season with a lot of unfinished business. He mentioned players like Tyler Davis, Ruka Rororo, guys like that, XT, guys like that who returned. And I think they really returned for a purpose. They returned because they felt like they didn't perform to the level that they wanted to last season, that the defense overall didn't perform to the level. And we can look at the numbers, and the numbers tell that story, right? The defense obviously underperformed based on the talent that they have, both on the front end, really, and more so the back end, is what Mike Reed was talking about. And he was just talking about he saw a hunger in, our safeties and our cornerbacks and those guys really focusing on the small things and really buying into some of the stuff that the coaching staff has been preaching the entire time, but it really got identified to them last year when, they saw, not focusing on the fundamentals, where that gets you. That's the difference between a touchdown and a pass breakup, right? That's the difference between a first down and a pass breakup. That's the difference between a tackle for loss and a run that goes 30 yards, right? Especially out there on the edge, because if you miss a tackle out there on the edge, nobody's out there to save you, right? You're the only one. You're on an island alone, right? So I don't know if you saw it, but what's kind of your thoughts on our secondary and just the theme that seems to be coming out of the defensive side of the ball this spring?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of get the same vibes and kind of the same sentiment from everyone that's been talked to on that side of the ball, from Mike Reed to some of the defensive backs to the defensive line. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a reinvigorated type of hunger in this group. I think just from the preparation and how they go about business. I know Dabo said that one thing about this group is he hasn't. There were times last year where he felt like he had to bring that effort out of some of the guys,
Yep.
and he hasn't had to do that so far this through the short time they've been practicing. But so I think those are all good signs. So I do think this group has a lot to prove. The back end definitely had its struggles last year. From giving up big plays in the air. That was the kind of the theme of when Clemson's defense had its worst performances. It was the explosive plays through the air. So getting back to that is huge, and I think it helps that there's a lot of really talented guys that have come in as mid-years, not just on the defensive line. Everyone knows about the defensive line, but in the secondary. So I think it's been huge for those guys. They have some new blood and they have some experienced guys. So it's a good mix, and they're pushing each other. And you have some guys that you didn't really get to see much of last year due to injury that are playing well. I know Mike Reed specifically mentioned Malcolm Green, a guy that he really highly rated kid coming out of Highland Springs in Virginia, same high school that Kayvon Wallace went to. A guy that's he's played a decent amount in his career, but just has had injury issues and hasn't been able to stay on the field consistently. But they've seen a lot from him, and he seems to. They said that he seems to be back to 100%, and he's playing like it. Yep. And I think that's a really good sign, because I think he was a guy like him to play well.
Yeah, I think he was quoted saying that he's felt the best he's ever had, at Clemson. So. Yeah, look forward to seeing what he can do for sure.
Yeah, and I do think if Malcolm Green especially is, because he's a guy that has a little bit of scheme versatility. I mean, he's a guy that's played everywhere. He's played outside. He's played nickel. I do think that takes some of the pressure off of some of the safeties. Most guys like Andrew Makuba, R.J. Mickens, and kind of allows him to kind of allows those guys to kind of stay in their more natural positions, especially Andrew Makuba. So I think Malcolm Green really getting and playing his best ball would be a huge boost for this defensive secondary. So
absolutely, and you got a Toriano Pride. They got a ton of experience last year. You got a sorry, I'm blanking on names right now. We talked about Sheridan Jones,
Jaden Lucas,
Jaden Lucas,
Nate
yep,
Wiggins.
Nate Wiggins, a guy that we saw literally develop before our eyes last season. Absolutely amazing. We got some guys, some young guys that unfortunately had to be thrown into the fire last year. But guess what? They got experience. And then, Nate Wiggins, a guy that, looked internally last year, and Dabo even talked about it in quite a few interviews where he just bought into preparation. He bought into film study. He bought into the entirety of the game. And earlier in the spring, Dabo talked about an Andrew Makuba, right? Who he wants to see take that next step. He wants to see him mature a little bit. He talked about Andrew Makuba's regression from last season and how he thought that he regressed, and he feels like he needs to become more mature, both in his preparation and in his off the field buying into workouts and stuff like that. Just really buying into becoming a better player. And so far this spring, it's been that he's doing all of that. He's taking his body serious. He's taking his preparation seriously. So it looks like we're going to have a lot of bought-in players and a lot of players, fortunately, that have real experience in our secondary, right? Something that we have not had the luxury of in the recent past anyway, So I look for those guys to turn a corner. It seems to be that they know the discrepancies or the deficiencies from last year. They know where they went wrong. They know what they need to do to get better. And it seems like the coaching staff has gotten their point across, right? And there's buy-in on that particular position group, right? So I did want to talk about the defensive linemen as well. We do know, that we are missing people along the defensive front, right? We're missing an XT. We're missing a Rook. We're missing who else are we missing along the defensive front? Who else is out? I'm trying to think. There's one other person.
I can't think of it.
I can't think of it. But
XT and Rook is who I think of.
XT and Rook, those are two big names, right?
Is it Justin Matt? Is Maskell hurt? I think it might be Justin. I'm not sure.
No, I think Maskell's there.
Peyton Page. Thank you.
Peyton Page. Thank you. There we go. I was thinking defensive tackle, but I knew it wasn't Tyler Davis.
I knew it
wasn't Tyler Davis, but I knew it was another defensive tackle, and I couldn't think of the name. So thank you, Jermaine. Peyton Page, Rook, XT, big guys missing along the defensive line, right? But with all of that missing, we are seeing some young guys get some playing time, right? A lot of talk of Peter Woods and him just kind of being a specimen, if you will, right? Just kind of being a plug-and-play player. He's really had, for the first week of spring practice, seems like he's done really well. The coaches are really happy with what he's done. And a lot of young guys getting some work along the defensive line. So what's kind of your thoughts on the defensive line? Do you think we're still, really slim at on the edge? We're obviously, I feel like we're pretty deep within the middle, but what's your thoughts on the middle and then more so the edge?
Yeah, from what I can tell, it's probably still a work in progress. Again, it's kind of similar to the offensive line, especially the interior. Just you're trying to build depth, at defensive ends because you don't have a lot of proven guys, and with XT out, and I know I see some people say that Maskell rolled his ankle. I do remember reading that, so he's probably limited. You need some of those other guys to really step up. Guys like Cade Denhoff, and I've heard some things about Jaheim Lawson. From the 2021 class. He's played. I know he's played some linebacker too. He's gotten some reps in linebacker, but they're repping him at edge too. So You're really trying to build that depth. That defensive end is going to be huge because, if you have, one injury, especially like if XT goes down and then if Mascall isn't, if Mascall isn't healthy either, you're already really, really
Yeah.
deep, and you have a lot of questions there. So, I think it's been really good to have the mid years come in for this group. A lot of talk has been made about guys like Tamarian Parker coming in and really stepping up. Peter Woods has been phenomenal. He's kind of played all over.
Absolutely.
So having that kind of invigoration of youth and talent is huge. But yeah, this defensive line, I feel pretty good about it. It's just going to be it's kind of wait and see at defensive end. I would not surprise me if Parker ends up playing really, really early at defensive end.
Yeah.
And maybe Peter Woods as well. I know Peter Woods, that he's kind of been working everywhere too. So I don't know whether they want him to play defensive tackle or defensive end. He's probably cross training a lot there. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, we're probably going to need him too. And Bryce Broomfield gets in and says Jaheim Lawson on deck. I did hear Dabo talking about Lawson and how he's kind of changed his body, and he's been super impressed with him this spring. So look to him to maybe make the turn, kind of turn that corner. Maybe insert himself into a little bit bigger role. We got guys that are going to have the opportunity to step up, and that's the important part, right? They're going to have the opportunity. Clemson recruits very well. So those guys are just going to have to turn the corner. They're going to have to make the most of their opportunities and step up. And that's, Clemson is look, we turn out really, really good defensive linemen, right? So look for that to continue. I think we'll be just fine. There are some question marks. There are some depth issues for sure. Not even a question. And some of our most experienced guys haven't been our most healthy guys, right? So health is going to be key along the Clemson defensive line this coming season in XT. And look, no disrespect to XT at all. I love XT. He is probably, if not my most favorite, one of my most favorite Clemson Tigers ever, right? I just love XT's story. I love what he's kind of endured at Clemson. He's had a rough go. And yeah, I talked about it a lot last season on this channel. Jordan, that I did. And I hope this year is what I was hoping for last year for XT. I hope he has a breakout season. I hope he absolutely destroys offenses and that he can turn that into a great NFL career. But there's a lot of talk about Peter Woods and all these guys, all these early enrollees coming out and really, really showing what they can do. So maybe that turns into depth. Maybe that turns into real deal playing time this coming fall. We don't know, but I think we're in a good place when it comes to the defensive line. Although we may have some experience issues, I guess, along the defensive line in certain positions, some depth issues. But that's not always going to be a bad thing. So some of those guys may step up and surprise you, and you learn their names way faster than you maybe would have if, say, that 2018 defensive line came back, right? Those dudes were, it was what it was with that, right? So other thing I wanted to touch on, Jordan, something that we tend to neglect here on the Voice of College Football Clemson channel, and more specifically me and your show here, is special teams. I want to talk a little bit about special teams because Dabo mentioned something in his interview, and I'm sure you heard it because we both watched the interview. He talked about the inconsistencies so far this spring in our kicking and our punting game, which as you know, gives me anxiety, right? I was not a big fan of our punting game last season. Our kicking game was just fine if you take out the last game of the season where BT Potter kind of, maybe had his worst season or his worst game as a Clemson Tiger, quite possibly. Um, but he was a great kicker for Clemson, no doubt about it. But we got a Robert Gunn. You got Swanson returning at punter, but there seems to be a lot of inconsistencies. Dabo talked about a lot of highs in the kicking game where they're thinking, okay, we have it figured out. These guys are hitting kicks left and right. And then there's some pretty major lulls, is kind of, what I got from his comments. What are your thoughts on the kicking game? Do you think Robert Gunn will kind of turn the corner, become, a BT Potter where, he came into Clemson, he was super inconsistent as well, and then became one of our most consistent kickers ever. Where do you see the kicking game going?
I mean, I think the world of Robert Gunn. I mean, I love the sign. I mean, the kid.
I know he has a huge leg. Like,
Yeah.
everybody talks about the dude can kick, a million yards or whatever. So he's got the leg to hit any kick, but you got to kick it through the uprights, right?
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I love. I mean, I love his leg. I think he's going to be a really nice kicker. It's one of those things, at the college level, you got to get acclimated and really just settle in. And sometimes it takes a lot of reps. It's just a different. It's I can't say this from experience, but I just know it's a different feel.
You're telling me you're not a former kicker? No.
No, unfortunately, no.
No?
I don't think I could kick a. Man, I'm not sure I could kick like a tennis ball.
You're telling me you didn't participate in any punt, pass, and kick contests when you were a kid? Come on now. Come on, Jordan.
No,
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. You were in at least one punt, pass, and kick contest.
Yeah, no, this absolute cannon for a leg that I have. Yeah, you already know about it. Yeah, you got me.
Yeah,
but but seriously, I do think it's just going to take more reps. That's really what it comes down to.
Right.
And it's not something I'm going to stress over too much. Just because I feel a lot better about the offense in general. I feel like kicking and punting, for that matter, is going to be a little less necessary. Hopefully, I think that's kind of the hope.
We would hope so, right?
Yeah.
Especially punting. We would hope that we need the punter a lot less than we have in recent times.
I do hope they've kind of made some tweaks on how they block, for their punts, because there were some moments last season. So I just, Aiden Swanson, I believe in him. I know he's still getting reps. Also heard good things about Jackson. Man, I'm forgetting his last name. Is it Jackson Smith? Whatever his name is. So he's got an awesome leg as well. But I hope the hope is that this special teams unit, takes a step forward this year, because I felt like they did a good job. They were able to block some kicks and block some punts last year, but as far as the kicking aspect of it, it's just there are too many lapses in communication as far as blocking. Obviously, the punts themselves weren't that good at times. So you just got to take that next step. And we're early. There's still a lot of spring left to go. It's very, very possible that they find more consistency, as the spring kind of goes on. I know that spring break is coming up. Woo! So they
excited about that.
I'm very excited about that. I need the break too. I know they do, but I think that it's going to be good for them, and I'm not going to worry too much if we're still having the same. If Dabo is still coming out especially after like the spring game, when we watch the spring game and it's a mess again, it's going to be Yeah, that's not going to be great, but there's still a lot of time left to go, and these things take time to kind of gel.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, it's only spring. We have, summer workouts, you got fall camp, you got all sort of stuff where they can get experience, they can get, more repetition and all that kind of stuff and become a little more dialed in on their accuracy. So it's not the worst thing ever, but I thought it was an interesting thing to talk about since that's like the one portion of the ball that we neglected the most when we did our live post game breakdowns. So I figured I'd give special teams a little love on the channel for sure. All right, you got anything else you wanna break down as far as spring practice goes, as far as position groups? Oh,
Uh, Not really, not any position groups, but just some guys to shout out that that
yeah,
Dabo also mentioned that we didn't really talk about. Heard good things about Shelton Lewis. Had a pick six in the spring,
yep,
uh, in the scrimmage. So that was really nice to see. He's a true freshman, mid-year guy. They've kind of they've had some really nice things to say about him, and that he's really coming in very well. So possible he works his way into the rotation as well. So that's really cool. Um, Another person that had a pick six in the game, Zaire Patterson, another guy that uh,
yes, yep. There you go.
really needs to kind of take that next step. Dabo said that he's just the problem with him is being consistent, and having that want to having that want to become better as a player. So I think that's kind of a huge thing. Nice to hear. He also, when I was waiting to mention Josh Sapp, he's a guy that I'm really high on at tight end. Just really, they say he can do it all. Blocks well. Really, really tough matchup in the receiving game. Just a really good football player. So excited to see what he can do, and see how much he plays alongside Brenny. So I'm other than that, trying to think who else did he name. Those are some of the names that really stood out to me when he mentioned them. So
Yeah. So there's always a reason that Dabo shouts out certain guys, right? I feel like Dabo, and you could tell me how you feel about this too. It's kind of the last thing we'll talk about until we, switch subjects. But I feel like Dabo talks to the media. Like when he's talking to the media, he's talking to his players, right? Especially when he's shouting out certain dudes and when he's articulating certain things and saying certain things. I feel like he's always like sending a message to his players in some way, which I think a lot of coaches do, and it's a super effective way, right? Because these dudes are watching interviews, right? Especially if their name's mentioned, they're definitely watching an interview. They're definitely tuned in on that kind of stuff. So I think it's an interesting outlet for coaches to use to kind of get their message out there and maybe say something to a player uh, that they need to hear, right? Or some outward encouragement that they need to hear, get their name out into the media, help them to keep driving forward and keep on that grind because maybe they're not where they thought they would be at this point in time, right? So I always thought that was an interesting thing that coaches do when they talk to the media.
absolutely, yeah.
Talking about Cole Turner, yeah. So a little bit about the wide receiver group. I talked earlier that we heard that Antonio Williams had a great spring or first scrimmage, right? So he caught a touchdown pass. He apparently had a great scrimmage. That's definitely one of the bigger question marks for this Clemson football team, right? Who's going to step up? Who's going to take that number one spot? Who's going to be all the complimentary receivers, right? I think and Antonio Williams will obviously be a slot guy. I think I even saw an article where he was like, I underachieved last year. I don't know about all that, but I commend his drive.
Yeah.
I like where his head's at. the best is yet to come. Let's keep grinding, all that sort of stuff. So I think he's in the right headspace. Hopefully, a Bo Collins, he's not participating in spring. He's still recovering from the shoulder surgery, the shoulder cleanup that he had. You got an Adam Randall that got his opposite knee cleaned up from the ACL tear that he had. So his opposite knee got cleaned up. So we got a couple big name guys that are not participating on the receiving side of the ball. So I think the spring game will be, kind of interesting when it comes to the wide receivers, right? Maybe we see some of those young guys really get out there and perform. Maybe they buy themselves a little bit of playing time, or something like that come the fall. It's kind of all up in the air. The Clemson receiving room has been, the best way I can put it is, underwhelming the past couple years, right? We've had some highlights. Antonio Williams, I think a Bo Collins has been probably pretty consistent. We lost a Joseph Ngata to the NFL draft, stuff like that. But that's definitely a big question. But you talk about a Cole Turner. That guy came onto the scene and bursted open in the last 4 games of the season, which was kind of the Clemson coaching staff's plans, right, for Cole Turner. And I tell you what, he did not disappoint, did he?
No.
He made everybody know who his name was. So it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out. But, lots of stuff to come. We still got the whole second half of spring to come. We still have the spring game to come. Plenty of stuff to break down. So it's going to be fun to watch it all unfold, to watch it shake out. But I want to get to your expertise, Jordan. I want to get to the junior day. Okay, we had a junior day weekend. I know we talked about it in the back room before we came in. We had a couple offers, Aaron Nolan, Brian Wesco, all that kind of stuff. We had a huge weekend. A bunch of recruits came in. They saw Clemson's campus. They got the royal treatment. We gave our best pitch. They decided to, put quite a few offers out there. So what are your kind of big takeaways from the junior weekend, and where do you see that kind of stuff landing? Where do we go forward from there?
Well, obviously, really important junior days, specifically because of obviously Aaron Nolan was probably the highlight of that group. Left with an offer, and is kind of Clemson's guy. I think that from all accounts it was a huge success. And I think Clemson has definitely firmly placed themselves in the race for Aaron Nolan. So that's huge. That's huge because obviously Clemson has swung and missed on its first 2 primary quarterback targets in DJ Lagway and Walker White. Took me a second.
There you go. Yeah. Sorry, I was thinking too. I was trying to throw you a lifeline, but I wasn't there.
Yeah, I am. You can tell. I told you this time change has messed me up, so I'm completely scrambled. So all things from all accounts, it was a huge success. They also hosted a few offensive line targets that left with offers, all from the state of Texas. So except for one. Who already had an offer. But Michael, I have no idea how to pronounce this. Michael Uini. I am not really sure. From Copperas Cove in Texas, he left with an offer. 4-star offensive tackle, 4-star offensive lineman Casey Poe out of Lindale High School in Texas as well. Also left with an offer, and 3-star offensive tackle Egan Boyer, as well from Cornelius, North Carolina. So huge recruiting weekend as far as the offensive line is concerned. Obviously, Clemson has missed on the 2. Yeah, he probably doesn't want to be called Weenie, John. I knew that didn't seem right. But
hey, look here. we do the best we can here. All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna just start calling him Michael U.
Michael, there you go. See that's what you do right there. If you don't
Just
know how to pronounce it, just say abbreviate it.
yeah. I'm gonna start initializing these guys from now on.
That's why everybody called DJU, right?
Yeah. Yep, that's true.
There you go.
Hey, I'll figure it out eventually. You know, I usually take pride in making sure I know how to pronounce these names, but I need to hear somebody say it first. You know, when I first heard Uyunglele, I was like, all right, I practiced it. I said repeated it to myself,
There
you
you
know,
go. Yeah.
5 or 6 times, and
Yep.
it was that's all it took. But but yeah, Clemson obviously really dipping into the state of Texas, and you've seen that the past couple of cycles. They've really tried to establish a footprint there, and they've gotten some really good talent out of there. So, and especially with the addition of Garrett Riley, they're really trying to make their mark and really build those relationships at those high schools. And obviously, you're probably gonna miss on the in-state offensive line targets. You already missed on Cam Pringle, Josiah Thompson did not come to the scrimmage. They wanted to get him in and visit for the scrimmage, but ended up not showing up. And as you know, he's deciding between Clemson and South Carolina. You can probably read between the lines there.
Yeah, it's a pretty clear message right there, right?
Yeah. And Blake Franks seems to be, although while he's not, his decision timetable isn't as clear. It's very much trending in the Gamecocks direction. So you really do need to. I think Clemson has done a really good job pivoting quickly and getting offers out to guys, and I like the guys they've offered in this cycle. You know, getting more guys out of the state of Texas. They're trying to build more size at that position. Without sacrificing too much athleticism. They want to get beefier up there, because I think that's kind of been the biggest discrepancy when Clemson has played some of the better teams on their schedule, the Notre Dames, the Tennessee game. Probably the biggest mismatch was at times was at the offensive line. So getting bigger and stronger at that position is going to be paramount for Clemson moving forward. So. Really like what they've done. But yeah, Junior Day was a huge success. Some other guys mentioned. I wanted to mention 4-star wide receiver Amari Jefferson. He was there. Clemson has already offered, I believe, 5 wide receivers this cycle. So Jefferson is not, and Jefferson did not leave with an offer, but he's a guy that's firmly on their radar. And if one of their primary guys, commits elsewhere, that's likely a guy they'll turn to and pivot towards. And so good to get the footprint in there. I think he's, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's a baseball commit. I think he's committed to Tennessee right now for baseball. He hasn't committed anywhere for football. But
interesting.
So that's
okay.
interesting.
Yeah, that's super interesting.
So he's a 2-sport guy. So you know how much Clemson loves their 2-sport guys. So he's
we're all about it, man. We're all about it. We do it all the time. The precedent has been set at Clemson for 2-sport guys, so no problems here, right? Dabo's all about it. He'll let you do what you got to do. So
yeah, I mean, look at Will Taylor.
There you go. Yeah, look no further.
Who's been playing really really good ball lately. So
right, absolutely.
Speaking of the baseball team, shout out to them. I think they've won like 6 in a row since the South Carolina series.
Yeah, they got rolling a little bit after that poor performance on the South Carolina series for sure.
And they also hosted 4-star linebacker Joseph Phillips from Alabama, I think. Booker T. Washington. All things considered, a successful Junior Day from all accounts. I think it's huge to get those offensive line offers out, especially, and get the foot in the door with Aaron Noland. So I think those were probably the 2 primary goals going into that weekend, and I think they did a really nice job. That's all really I had to say about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Looks like we're in good position for Aaron Noland and all that kind of stuff. John Sarin gets in and said, I like how Riley said he's already getting outreach from Texas coaches. We talked about this in the back room before we came on and went live tonight. Clemson's reaching into Texas a little more frequently now, which is a good thing to see. We're growing the size of our offensive linemen. It's a good time. It's what we want to see as Clemson fans, right? They're still getting athletic guys, but they're getting bigger guys. And I think that's really important for the offense that Clemson is running and the kind of college football world that we live in right now. Clemson can no longer, kind of have these guys that, are undersized and just fast. And, it's just we got two horses in the back. We need some big boys to pave the way for them so that they can grind and this offense can really be what it needs to be. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes with Aaron Nolan. We'll see how it goes with all the other offers, whether they, settle on Clemson or not. That remains to be seen. Before we move on away from football, I think the last thing I want to touch on, did you watch any of the pro day, the Clemson pro day?
I really did not get to catch much of it, but I did see some clips, some highlights. Not really. I don't know. It wasn't really much to take away.
Yeah. We kind of got the guys that we have, right? Obviously a Miles Murphy didn't participate. He's going to participate at a later date and hold kind of his own workout, if you will. I think he's still, trying to get right. You got a Trenton Simpson that is, that dude's a specimen.
Yeah.
Good Lord. It's just our guys are what they are. Brian Brzee, what you're getting. I think he had a great showing at the NFL Combine. He had a great showing at the Clemson Pro Day. I think all of our guys really did. John Sarian mentions Dabo's funny comment about that's what we all want to look like in underwear when talking about
Trent Simpson.
So I think all our guys performed well. And it's just so I want to take you back, right? Talking about Clemson's pro day and stuff like that, right? And talking about kind of where I feel one of the big turns of the Clemson football program was, right? Do you remember back to a one running back coach, CJ Spiller's pro day? Do you remember what that pro day looked like?
I was, oh man. That was like what, 2010?
Something like that, yeah.
Do I remember it? Kind of. I was like 11, but
you remember the story behind it, though, right?
Yeah, I do.
Absolutely, right. So the story behind it is that was the catalyst for Clemson getting its first indoor practice facility, right? Because it was pouring down rain, it was a miserable situation, and Dabo kind of looked around and was like, you know what? This ain't it, man. This is never going to happen again. And now spring forward to Clemson 2023, right? Not only do we have indoor practice facilities and we have this massive football facility with a bowling alley and barbershops and game rooms and basketball courts, excuse me, and training rooms and recovery rooms and nap rooms and NIL facilities. A slide, a big, entranceway with our twin trophies, right? Not only do we have all that, but we got an NFL locker room now for all of our guys to come back to Clemson, all of those guys that have grinded for Clemson, all of those guys that have put in their blood, sweat, and tears, as we talked about on the last show, to come back and utilize all the resources that we have here. So I just think it's cool to talk about full circle kind of stuff like that and how it was for CJ Spiller. And now he's coaching our running backs. And now look at what these dudes have at their disposal for pro day and stuff like and just the production that Clemson does. I think they do a really good job. So, I didn't get to catch much of pro day either. I had a pretty busy week, but Clemson always does a great job with that. They always put their guys on display. They always put them in the best position possible. And there's always a bunch of coaches that come out from the NFL, GMs, front office type of dudes that come out and watch the Clemson Pro Day. So it's always great to see that kind of stuff. And the slide may be the focal point of the Clemson football facility.
Oh, absolutely. That's the selling point.
Is that not the selling point for the Clemson football facility?
Yeah, you don't really, and I think it's really huge for the parents too. It's gotten rave reviews from the parents as far as of recruits, of players. You really don't become a part of the Clemson family until you go down that slide.
You got to go down the slide, right? It's like running down the hill.
Yeah,
but for the parents, right? You got to go down the slide. That's how you become part of the Clemson family. You go down, you go down Dabo's slide. That's it. That's where it's at. Mark Rogers gets in, says, "Can't forget the slide." Yeah,
no, you can't.
Thanks for stopping by, Mark. We appreciate it. But let's. I know you don't want to, Jordan. I know you don't want to. But we're gonna transition from football for a little bit, and maybe we revisit football because we'll get into the comment section later. We always interact with you guys at the end of the show and get to your comments and all kind of stuff like that. And but we're gonna transition into another sport right now. Mark gets in and says, "Since I'm an Ohio State fan, I guess I would have to go down backwards." I don't know if they'll let you in the Clemson facility as an Ohio State fan, Mark. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just kidding. They'll let you in. But you can't talk about the playoff loss. You can't talk about that.
Yeah, that's awful.
That's the rule to get in. You can't talk about
no Sugar Bowl talk.
No complaining about the Sugar Bowl, and then you can get in to the Clemson football facility. Yeah. But let's talk a little Clemson basketball. So we will rewind in time for a little bit to the point where Clemson did not get selected on Selection Sunday for the NCAA tournament, but they were a selection for the NIT. Jordan, they were a selection for the NIT, right?
Certainly, yeah. Yeah, they were a selection, all right.
And then what happened, Jordan? What is going on with Clemson basketball? Is Brad Burnell getting fired? I hear people talking about Graham Neff making misstep after misstep. The Clemson basketball program's in shambles. What is going on right now with Clemson basketball? How did we go from we're going to the NCAA tournament to where we are today? Please walk us through it.
Well, the last time we were here, we were all together talking about Clemson basketball. Clemson was about to play their quarterfinal matchup against NC State in the ACC tournament.
Absolutely.
And there was just a common sentiment that Clemson was going to have to win that game. And what do? They take care of business. They absolutely demolish NC State. Final score 80-54. Their third straight double-digit victory over NC State that season. And there was a sentiment right after that game, not just from Clemson fans, not just from Brad Brownell, not just from the players, but from the national media that this Clemson basketball team was a NCAA tournament team.
Right.
Now, they still had more games to play. And specifically, they had to play their semifinal matchup against Virginia, which, man, Virginia, that's a whole nother topic. Wow. But
they beat breaks off Clemson.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And all the goodwill that the team had built up after that NC State game just completely went crumbling. Mm-hmm. And so, disappointing loss. Virginia, obviously, better team, and Clemson did not shoot well that day, and they got diced up by Virginia's offense. They just and so it was a tough night, but there was still some hope that Clemson would be selected. And Selection Sunday rolls around. and they don't get a bid. And obviously, there was a lot of people, myself included, a lot of Clemson fans, Brad Brownell, the players that felt like this team was good enough to get in. They were 14-6 in league play, 23 and what was their, I think, final, they were what, 23-9, 23-10. Yeah, they had some good wins over, teams like Duke, Pitt, NC State 3 times. They beat Penn State, who ended up being in the tournament. So there was reason, there was arguments to that this Clemson basketball team was good enough to be in the tournament, and I still believe they were good enough,
Right.
even despite last night. But didn't get in because you had bad losses to teams like South Carolina, Loyola Chicago, Louisville, Boston College, and because of that, you had a bunch of ugly losses that a lot of other teams that you were being compared against didn't have. They might not have had some of the same quality wins, but the selection committee decided that bad losses matter more than good wins, and they left you out. Now, I think it sucks. I was one of the people that campaigned for this team to be in. I still feel like they should have been in, but the problem is in the aftermath of the snubbing, there was a lot of public outcry, and there was public statements by both Brad Brownell and Graham Neff that this team was a tournament team. They should have been in, all of that, and that they got snubbed. And the biggest thing was Graham Neff coming out and voicing his public support of Brad Brownell, that despite the team not making the tournament, which seemed to be the kind of the goal and was kind of the ultimatum this season for Brad Brownell, is that this team had to go dancing. It didn't matter because even though they didn't make it, he felt like it should have been a tournament team, so he wasn't going to hold it against Brad Brownell. And so this team gets selected for the NIT, number 1 seed. They get an opportunity to show the selection committee, that they missed out on having a really good team in the field.
That they were wrong.
Yeah.
Yes.
You get a home game. That's how the NIT works. You get to host. That's one of the only good things about playing in the NIT, is that you get to host. You get an extra home game if you're a high seed, and you're playing something called Morehead State, which is funny because I have a funny Morehead State story, because I saw their team bus their team bus got stuck trying to turn into their hotel, and so their back end was clogging up Tiger Boulevard. And so there was like a huge. They were blocking the entire left lane, and there was a cop there. It was really funny. It wasn't so funny after the game, but again, you had an opportunity. You have an opportunity to show the committee why they were wrong, and that this team was good enough to play in the tournament. And you come out, and first half, you start out really well.
Yeah,
shooting really well. Got out to a 15-point lead.
Doing great. Looking like a win for the Tigers.
Yeah, guys were hitting shots. They were Morehead State they couldn't hit anything from 3. Clemson was physical on defense. Seemed like the Tigers came to play. Yeah. And then the end of the half happened, and you could tell Morehead State cut the lead to 2 going into half, and you could just feel the energy kind of shift. And second half rolls around, and it's just an ugly slugfest. Nobody played well, especially for Clemson. And Morehead State started hitting shots. They started getting more comfortable offensively. And they were making Clemson uncomfortable defensively. And what was a 15-point lead, just in just the gradual, slowest way possible, becomes a 4-point loss. And I don't know, man. It's just a huge embarrassment.
Yeah.
For this program, for this university.
Yeah. I see Still Gamble in the comments saying Brad Burnell is the Tommy Bowden of Clemson basketball.
Yeah, there's a lot of comparisons there.
There's a lot of there's a lot of good comparisons there.
Yeah.
A lot of valid comparisons there. I don't know. You know, I've said before in the past, I'm a through and through college football fan. I follow college football, you know, through and through, like to the hilt, like 100% college football. I follow Clemson basketball from afar. You are obviously the expert on this channel about college basketball or Clemson basketball for sure. But I don't know where they go from here. You're already hearing guys transfer. You're already hearing, you know, guys testing NFL or NBA, excuse me, not NFL, NBA waters and stuff like that. So, what's this team going to look like next season? Who knows, right? A bunch of people could transfer out. A bunch of people could, you know, decide that they're going to, you know, take their talents to the NBA. What, not a bunch of people, but you know, certain players.
Really just one.
Really just one.
NBA
Yeah. I should say just one could take their talents to the NBA. You know, we'll kind of see how that goes, but you know, I thought that, you know, it was disappointing that Clemson didn't make the NCAA tournament. And again, this is me talking from a Clemson fan that follows basketball from a distance, right? I don't get super invested in it. I don't, you know, nothing like you do, right? Like, you know, all the stuff about Clemson basketball, but you know, it was disappointing to see their performance in the NIT. It just was. It was super disappointing. And, you know, again, here's another season where we did not make the NCAA tournament. Here's another season where we made the NIT and had an early exit against an inferior team that we should have beat. I mean, we were hands down better than the team that we lost to. But again, we lose. And here we are. And, you know, it's just frustrating. It's frustrating to watch Clemson basketball. It really is, which is why I don't watch it very much. I'm going to be honest. I just don't. I don't watch it very much.
Yeah, it's just embarrassing, and it's just I said this on Twitter. I said this was an all-time foot and mouth moment for the Clemson basketball program, because you spent all week talking about how you got snubbed, and how good this team was.
Right.
And your athletic director comes out and makes a very, very strong public support of your head coach, who's been under a lot of scrutiny for quite a while now.
Yep.
And
kind of paving the road to an NIL run.
Yeah.
Or, right?
Yeah.
Or,
and
yeah. Or, yeah.
The thing is the worst part is that everything that this team accomplished, I mean, in a lot of ways, this team was historic. I mean, obviously 14 ACC wins, school record, all of that. Best start to conference play in school history. One of the winningest teams. I mean, they won 23 games. There's not a lot of seasons in Clemson basketball history where they won 23 games, which shows how meager the basketball history is. But
right. But
the thing is all of that rings hollow because of the awful losses. This team is not going to be remembered fondly, despite how many good moments they had.
Which is what, like, yeah, we had a lot of historic moments in this season, right? When you look at it. But at the end of the day, it ended like a lot of other Clemson basketball seasons that were less historic when you look at the individual numbers and stuff like that, right?
Yeah,
So at the end of the day, what did it get us? Nothing.
absolutely not.
It ended like every other Clemson basketball season, missing out
And
on the NCAA tournament and an early exit from the NIT. That's what it. That's what the season was. At the end of the day, that's what the season was.
the worst part is, and I see John mentioned it too. This was not a good year for the ACC.
No,
There
this
was not a clear number one team. The traditional powers, the Dukes, the Virginias, the North Carolina, especially North
all
Carolina, who
all down,
you still managed to lose to, get your ass kicked by, um,
all down, all
all
down,
down.
all
Louisville
down.
in the absolute toilet, one of the worst power conference teams in since the history of the honestly like ever. Like
And
they are awful.
Clemson still couldn't take advantage of it.
No, I mean, you had a really favorable schedule as well. I mean, you, especially in ACC play. I mean, the teams that a lot of the best teams in the league, you only had to play once. You only played Duke once. You beat them. Props to you. Pitt, you only had to play once. You beat them. Get props. You only had to play Miami, who you lost to once. You only had to play. Who am I thinking of? North Carolina once. You
Yeah.
lost to them. And so, I mean, the best team you had to play more than once was NC State, and that was just a really good matchup for you. But other than that, a lot of the teams you had to play multiple times weren't very good. Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest. Well, you split with Wake Forest. I mean, they were okay. I won't say they were bad. Louisville, who you managed to lose to once. So I mean, while you did set all these records, it wasn't against the ACC as a lot of people remember it as. I mean, this is not a very good. This is not a very like a banner year for the conference, and you didn't take advantage. You couldn't make the tournament, and you still
Right.
lost to bad teams that you shouldn't have. And so that's what everyone is going to remember about this team. It's not like the 2018 the Sweet 16 team that was. That team had some good wins. They beat North Carolina. I think they played them twice, but they beat them once. They had good wins, and then they actually performed when they got into the tournament. I mean that blowout win in the second round against Auburn is still one of my favorite memories in Clemson basketball history. That was just an utter like eviscerating. That was so much fun, and you think back to that team, and you've seen what has been since, and you're like, will it ever get better than that? Or did that was the peak of the Brad Brownell era? And so it comes to a point where it's, what is your expectations for this basketball program? What do you want the basketball program to be? Because there's not many power 5, power 6, or whatever you want to call it in basketball. There's not many schools that would I don't know that would be okay with the kind of performance that Clemson basketball has had the last decade. Plus 13 years, 3 tournament appearances. 3 tournament appearances in 13 years. And
It's
the problem is it's not. Yes, Clemson does not have the history in basketball that it's not. It is not some historic program, but I think the difference is I think this program can be so much more, and I don't think the history dictates what you can become. I mean, look at Alabama right now.
yeah.
And they decided to take basketball serious, and now they're a number 1 overall seed, and playing loaded with talent, getting top recruiting classes, all of that. A school Alabama's not some juggernaut in basketball school, but they had the money. They got, especially because of their success in football, which is a big reason why I think this basketball program could be a lot more. And they've turned it into success. And I I don't understand why Clemson can't do the same thing, especially when the ACC and the traditional powers are in the shape that they're in right now.
That and you look at the rest of the sports, even new sports that Clemson has established in recent years. They're performing far better than the basketball program. You know, what's the excuse? What's the reason?
The reasons that people have given in the past is, oh man, the facilities weren't good. We didn't invest in the program and all of that. And Brad needs more support and all of that. And I'm like, well, it's funny you say that because Brad, when he first took this job, he was making $900,000 a year. Do you want to know what he's going to make this year?
Let us know.
$2.7 million.
Mm.
Brad Brownell's salary has tripled since he's been here.
I would say that is support. Would you not?
Yeah.
If you were working a job over, how long has Brad Brownell been there? 13 years?
13. This was his 13th season.
13 years. So if you worked a job for 13 years and you started at $900,000 and you were 13 years later making, what did you say?
$2.7 million.
2.7 million.
2.6, 2.7, whatever it is. I don't remember.
Would that not tell you that you have support in that job? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. And the biggest thing is, you complain about you complain about not getting enough support, but then you keep taking those raises and and when it could be going to other things, to getting a better staff, getting better facilities, all of that.
They have
and
great
so
facilities.
I don't think that's an excuse anyway, because
did they not redo Little John Coliseum?
They did. Well, I mean, we have the facilities now,
right? So
and the results still have been what they are, and
right.
so and I don't even take it as an excuse anyway, because his predecessor, Oliver Purnell, far from a perfect coach, far from it, and there was a lot of ups and downs in his tenure.
Mm-hmm.
But even he, in his last 3 years, went to the tournament 3 straight years with those same facilities, those same crummy facilities you talk about, in the same conference against better teams. The ACC back in 2008, 2009 was a whole different. North Carolina was winning national championships. So was Duke.
That's a different animal back then, right?
Yeah. The ACC was brutal in those days.
Yeah.
And Clemson Oliver Purnell still found a way to get Clemson to the dance. He didn't win a single game, but he got there.
Yeah.
He got there. And Brad has made it 3 times in 13 years. And one of which was his first year with Oliver Purnell's players. So really, if you think about it, Brad Brownell has made the tournament 2 times with players that he's recruited. 2 times. And so the expectations, I said, I also tweeted this out. I said, the expectations for this program are in the toilet. I said that out of kind of reaction to some of the people defending, still finding trying to defend the results, and especially the loss last night. And so it's come to a point where it's like, what are we doing here? Because if this athletic department isn't serious about winning in basketball, then why bother? Why do we keep giving Brad Brownell extensions and raises and all of that? Because has Brad Brownell been a terrible coach at Clemson? No, but he hasn't been good.
Yeah,
no one would say his tenure has been good. He's the winningest all-time head coach in Clemson basketball history, simply because he's been here the longest.
Right.
So I'm at a loss, and today did not help. Watching Furman, a team that does not have the recruiting and salary and resources that Clemson has in basketball. Right in our backyard, right up in Greenville, South Carolina. they make the tournament. Bob Ritchie in that squad, they figured out a way to beat Virginia.
They did. They did.
And it was because they were well coached. So Furman doesn't have these giant facilities and this large recruiting budget. Sometimes just having a good coach that knows situationally how to do, well, not just situationally, but X's and O's wise. And Brad Brownell is a good X's and O's coach, but just the adjustments, the in game, leaves a lot to be desired, and it's cost Clemson a lot in a lot of games. And you could tell he wasn't able to get his players motivated last night. And so you go and watch a team like Furman that is not nearly as talented as Clemson, doesn't recruit the same players, they're a tiny little private school. Their campus, it's a beautiful campus, but it's not very big. It's really tiny. I've been on it multiple times. They found a way. Bob Ritchie, he did a really good job in that game. They went down early, and what did he do? He was like, all right, well, it's time to make Virginia uncomfortable. Let's switch. Let's make a change. We're going to commit to the change, and we're going to do some things to make them uncomfortable. He switched to a 1-3-1 zone, and caught Virginia off guard. They go on a run and get right back into the game, and they find a way to win it in the end.
Right.
Awesome game. So why can a team like Furman be competitive against Virginia and win against Virginia in an important must-win situation, but Brad and Clemson can? I don't know.
I don't know either, man. I don't know either. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I would suspect that he will be here next year. I suspect.
Oh, he is. He is. It's not a. You don't need to suspect. He is. Graham Neff has come out and said he's not going to retract it just because they lost, because that might look even worse. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
It would look worse. I wouldn't be mad if he did it, because it would look bad in the short term, but it would.
Yeah. Who cares, right?
Yeah.
In the long term, if you make the right coaching hire, but it is what it is. Clemson basketball is where it is, and that's it, man. It's I don't know what to say. It's puzzling, to say the least. But we'll move on from the misery that is Clemson basketball, the absolute dumpster fire that is Clemson basketball. Hopefully, Brad Brownell can somehow come up out of his 13-year slump and become an amazing basketball coach overnight. Who knows? Anything could happen, right? But I will say, shout out to the softball team. They are now 26-1 on the season. They got 23 straight home wins. Their only loss coming to a Tennessee team who has amazing pitching that we talked about before. They just had a game against Charlotte on Wednesday that was absolutely insane, dude. Absolutely insane. Did you watch that game?
I caught the last few innings.
Okay, well, that's all.
The fifth.
Look, the fifth inning. The fifth inning is all you needed to catch of the Clemson softball game on Wednesday. Good Lord, they came alive in the fifth inning. I think it was like 2-1 going into the fifth. And those of you that don't know anything about Clemson softball or ACC softball or college softball in general, there's an 8-run rule. So if you're up by 8 after fifth inning or after 5 innings, then the game's called, right? You don't play the full 7 innings. So Clemson goes into the bottom of the fifth up 2-1. And then, Mackenzie Clark hits a home run. There's a bunch of hits. And then Ariel Oda hits this walk-off 2-run bomb to make it 9-1, and it's a walk-off shot, and it was absolutely amazing. I couldn't believe it when I was when I was watching it. It was crazy, dude. It was fun to watch. Um, I tuned into the game, I think maybe in like the second or the third inning, because I tuned into it late, and it was like 2-1 against Charlotte, and I was like, "Oh, what's going on with Clemson?" And then it kind of stayed that way. Obviously, our ace pitcher Valerie Cagle was pitching, so they didn't get a whole lot of opportunities. That is Charlotte on offense, and then Clemson just absolutely exploded in the fifth, and that walk off shot was pretty amazing to watch. So, and I know the Clemson baseball team's doing pretty well. They're on their own, winning streak. They've recovered nicely after that South Carolina series against their former head coach. So, all things looking up on that side of Clemson sports. But yeah, man, it's looking pretty good for Clemson softball. It's looking pretty good,
Yeah,
man.
it is.
I'm looking
Just
for
really
I'm
like this
looking
game.
I'm looking for them to make a run. This team looks hungry, driven. They're ready to play. So it's going to be absolutely amazing to watch. But you guys go ahead and get your comments in the comment section. Let me and Jordan know what questions do you want answered? What questions do you have about Clemson football? What questions do you have about Clemson in general? What questions do you have for us? We are here to interact with you guys over the next little bit in the comment section. We will get to as many comments as we can before we close out the show. That's kind of how we do it here, right?
Yep. Get those
So,
comments in. Hit that like button if you haven't already.
yeah,
All of
please
that.
hit that like button if you haven't already. I see we got 25 people in here. I think the last like count I saw on the video was 18. So please, if you are in here right now, go ahead and hit that like button. It really helps us out on these live videos. And we're trying to grow the channel, right? And we are slowly growing. We are, super thankful to you guys for helping us grow. We are trying to bring the best content that we can to you guys. So, go ahead and show us your support. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and help us out. Smitty says, can they find the basketball Dabo? Who would be the basketball Dabo? Jordan, who would you pick for the basketball Dabo?
I mean, I don't know. I really couldn't tell you. If we're just talking like the same kind of story that Dabo had, like just a assistant coach that.
Okay, yeah, that'd be a cool angle. Yeah,
I mean, hey, I've heard a lot about Greg Buckner, former Clemson player. Who's he? I think he's with the Cavaliers. He's in an assistant role with the Cavaliers. I think he would be a really good hire. No, he's never been a head coach before, so you could probably. I mean, I would prefer if Clemson went in and went after a guy that was experienced, but that's kind of an out of the box. If we're thinking about like an out of the box hire like Dabo was, I think that would kind of be sort of out of the box. But he's got ties to the NBA, got ties to Clemson. Obviously, having played there, I think he could recruit to the school really, really well. So hey, that's kind of a guy. But a lot of people, especially after today, talk about Bob Ritchie, head coach at Furman. Just he's a guy that he wins games. And Furman hasn't, been great the last few years, and he's kind of built them up into a really, really good program. So
absolutely, yeah.
And he's right in your backyard. Wouldn't be hard to offer him. So that's somebody. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I do think Clemson. I think some of our own fans don't give this school enough credit as far as how good the job is, and I think Clemson could attract some really, really good candidates, especially if they're willing to write the check, which this athletic department in most respects has been willing to. So if this athletic department decides they want to get serious about basketball, I think they could. I think they could do what Alabama has done and maybe not as far as like the results wise. Like I'm not saying they go get a Nate Oates that is going to start. Clemson's going to start bringing in #1 classes. I just want to recruit better than 92nd. I think they're sitting right now in the recruiting rankings in basketball right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay, well, we'll see. Again, it's a kind of a pointless conversation because Brad Brownell is going to be. At least right now, it's a pointless conversation because Brad Brownell is coaching for at least another year. So,
hey, did you hear that Georgia Tech and Florida State are going to Ireland to play a game?
Yeah, 2024.
2024. Yeah. Georgia Tech and Florida State are going to Ireland to play a game. What do you think about that? Do you like that? Do you hate that? Like what? Like your initial thought, like when you heard that?
I'm kind of indifferent about these kind of games. I mean, it's
I know it's always
Northwestern, and
I know it's always about growing eyes on the sport, and it's all about TV deals, right? It's all about eyes on the sports. It's all about commercial money. It's all about stuff like that. But I don't know, man. I'm not sure how I feel about it. So I was interested to see what you thought about games like that.
Yeah,
I'm of the belief that college games should happen on college campuses. But
yeah, I think so too. But I understand the novelty of it. It's cool. Yeah. I wouldn't be a huge fan if Clemson were to do it. So I don't know. It's especially if you're sacrificing a home game or a potential home game or something.
Yeah, hell no.
So I just, I mean, I'm kind of indifferent about that kind of stuff. It's cool. I wouldn't want Clemson to do it, but I'm fine if I don't have a problem if other teams want to do it. So Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I mean, what would you rather do? Play in Death Valley on a Saturday with all the tailgating on all the fans, or play in a soccer stadium in Europe on a Saturday? Like, what would you rather do? Like, I mean,
obviously, yeah. The answer is obvious.
I get it. They're trying to grow the sport. They're trying to grow the eyes on the sport and bring more of the TV network and that kind of money to the sport. But I don't know, man. Like the NFL's doing stuff like that, and that's fine for them. I get it. They're growing their brand and stuff like that. I don't like it for college football, to be completely honest. And I know Dabo Swinney was asked about it in his interview, and he's like, yeah, let's go, blah, 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 blah. I don't like it, man. I don't like it. Play college football games on college football campuses where there's students, there's fans, there's tailgating, there's, what makes college football what it is. It's the tradition, it's the tailgating, it's, the students, it's, it's the atmosphere that are in a lot of these, especially in the Southeast, right? There's a certain atmosphere on college football campuses or on college campuses in the Southeast when it comes to college football Saturdays, right? And game day and stuff like that. And I just think it'd be watered down by taking games international and playing in soccer stadiums. I just feel like we're moving in a direction where we're just becoming the G League of the NFL. You know how the NBA has the G League? I feel like college football is moving in a way where we're starting to become the G League of the NFL. And I don't like it because that's not what college football has ever been. Yes, are a lot of college football athletes and a lot of college football players aspirations to play in the NFL one day? Yes. But the college football experience is way different than the NFL experience. So that's just my opinion on it. I don't know. I don't like it. I'm not a fan of it, but if it happens, it is what it is. I'll probably watch college football anyway. In fact, I know I watch college football anyway. So unfortunately for diehard fans like myself and you, there's probably nothing they could do to make us stop watching college football. So,
for sure,
I guess we have no leverage, do we?
No, we don't. We are at the mercy of the big corporate executives that run
That's
the
right.
TV
The TV deals, man.
and all of that. So hey,
That's all anybody talks about anymore is the TV deals, right?
yep. Not so much about football, but hey, college football has always been only like halfway about football anyway.
That's true. That's true.
So it's always been about a lot of other things off the field.
Yeah, I mean, we got the 12-team playoff coming here pretty soon. What is this? Is this the last year of the 14 playoff this coming season? This is
Yep.
the last year, right? Yeah. So we got the 12-team playoff coming next year. That's gonna completely change the name of the game. It's probably gonna change the way that people schedule out of conference, teams. It's gonna change a lot in college football. There's gonna be a lot of change coming. It's gonna be absolutely insane. I don't know if it's all for the better, but it's all coming anyway. So there's nothing really we can do about it. Edward says that coach and players showed us. Yeah, they're still talking college basketball. I'm no longer interested in college basketball, guys. Sorry. You guys keep talking about Brad Burnell and the Clemson basketball team. I've moved back on to football and things that are important to me. So let's talk a little bit about the Clemson spring game. Are you going to the Clemson spring game?
Yep, that's the plan.
You are going to the Clemson spring game, and the Clemson spring game is what date? You got a date?
I always forget because I don't have to do much. I don't have to do much planning because it's like a stone's throw away for me.
It must be nice, Jordan. It must be nice to not do planning for the Clemson spring game.
I can just show up. April 15th. It wasn't
April 15th is the Clemson spring game. Yes, I need to come down for the Clemson spring game for sure. We should do something for the Clemson spring game. Absolutely.
I wonder if we could do a show for it. That'd be cool.
That would be cool if we could do a show for the Clemson spring game. Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely talk about that offline a little bit. Figure out something for the Clemson spring game. I would like to come down there live and or come down there and watch the Clemson spring game live, and then us do a show or something about it. So that'd be something cool. We'll talk about it. You guys get your comments in the comments section. We already got a couple stuff to worry about, or a couple stuff to think about. Maybe a collab with Morgan Thomas. Maybe a live show down at the Clemson spring game.
Now, that would be cool.
That would be super cool. Maybe we could set something like that up. That would be cool. I think for sure.
For sure.
But Smitty gets in and says the 12-team playoff is going to be ridiculous. A lot like the basketball tournaments, teams who deserve to be there will be snubbed for less fortunate teams that don't necessarily belong. That's an interesting point. Will that turn into the basketball type thing where it's kind of a political game and teams get in based off of different requirements? That's interesting. I don't know. That's something to think about, man. There are going to be at-large bids, right? So every conference champion gets in. So I don't know. Maybe that mitigates some of that, but I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, the top 6 conference champions get in, but yeah, there will be auto bids.
Yeah,
for sure, and it'll be interesting for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It will be interesting. Smitty said we should take a hotspot and do the show from the stands.
Yeah, that's the thing. It would have to be we definitely have to find a way to bring the internet to us because the service in Death Valley is terrible.
It's terrible. We have to get some Morgan Thomas connections to get some internet in Death Valley because I remember when me and Smitty went to the game with our wives this past year. We went to the Syracuse game. There's no service in Death Valley. I don't know what happens there, but it's like a dead spot for cell phone service. It's non-existent. So, yeah, we would definitely have to figure something out. Definitely something we would have to work some magic, if you will, to make happen. He said the spring game isn't as loud as regular season games.
Well, of
And
course not.
you could come down and do it with us, Smitty. If you
That'd
come
be
down for the spring
that'd be
game,
fun.
we could have the old post game live show back together down there for the spring game. So it'd be super cool. And then all these people that come in our comment section, Jordan, could come down, and we could hang out with them too. So
Oh, that would be awesome.
yeah, like a
We all had like an
meet
all-in show meetup.
yeah, a meet and greet with Tiger Paw and Jordan Bowman. That'd be super cool, man. So we'll talk about it more on the show. We'll figure something out. I really want to go to the spring game. That's definitely something that I want to do, and then we'll just let it develop from there and see kind of how it goes from there. It might evolve into something crazy, or it might just be me and you, Jordan, watching the spring game and then doing a post game show. We'll see how it works out. You guys in the comment section, you guys are going to drive that. So let us know what you want. If you want to come and meet us, and we kind of hang out together before the game or after the game, we'll see what it does. We'll see what it do. Angel Moss says, "I'm ready for the spring game. I'm ready for the season. I'm missing Clemson football. I don't know this team. I do know this team, showing they are hungry and excited for the 2023 season. Hey, look, all reports from coaches are that they are very hungry. They are absolutely bought into this season. Dabo was quoted as saying that he hasn't had to draw any sort of energy or want to out of this team in spring so far. So hopefully that continues through spring, through the spring game, into summer and into fall camp, and then ultimately into the most important part, which will be the 2023 season. So we'll see kind of how that goes. Smitty gets in and says Riot is playing 7-on-7 on Saturday in April, unfortunately. Well, that sucks, man. But it's okay. It's okay. I understand. I completely understand. Philip gets in. Hey, how you doing, Philip? Thanks for stopping by. Please hit that like button while you're in here. And he said, really excited this year about Clemson football after the new hire. Can't wait. So he's really excited about Garrett Riley. He's really excited about what Clemson's offense may look like, which, we've talked about it a lot on the past show. We talked about it a little bit less on this show, but Garrett Riley saying all the right things as the coordinator. It seems to be that the offensive staff is gelling. Seems to be they are working together really well, just getting on the same page as far as terminology and things like that. So excited to see what this Clemson offense is going to look like. Now, for everybody out there listening, it's not going to be some epiphany come the spring game, right, Jordan?
Probably not. Yeah, no.
Probably not. It's probably going to be something fairly simple in the spring game, but we'll kind of see. We'll kind of see how it works.
For sure. Yeah, it's definitely going to be it's not going to look like we're not going to see everything and all that, but you are going to see kind of the structure, the skeleton, the foundation of what this offense is going to look like, and that's really what I'm looking forward to seeing. So, and just watching the quarterback, seeing how they go through things, seeing Cade and see what kind of improvements he's made. Get to see Chris Vizina in action. So,
yeah, it'll be fun to see a lot of the backups, right? Especially the quarterbacks to get a couple reps, get obviously our first view of Chris Vizina and some of our freshman receivers and stuff like that. It's going to be really cool to watch. It's going to be interesting for sure because we obviously have some question marks at a couple positions: offensive line, receiver, on the edge, the secondary, stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see how these guys have developed in spring, how the offense is grasping what Garrett Riley wants them to do, and kind of stuff like that. So it won't be this epiphany, but it will be something that we can gain at least some sort of inkling on how the progression's going with our new offensive coordinator, how things are gelling with kind of maybe those second and third string offensive linemen, stuff like that. Because those of you that don't know, Clemson splits their team in a true half and half. So they try to even it out as best they can, and they play it as a real game. They split the team, they split the coaching staff, they game plan. They treat it as much like a real game, I guess, as any team out there. More so like a real game than most of the teams out there. So it'll be interesting how all of those new pieces look, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I think that's probably where most of the eyes will be, right, Jordan?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, just really getting to just get your eyes on a lot of guys, see what and kind of see how they're progressing, moving along. But other than that, not going to be too much to take away for as far as what the offense is going to look like. But I do think that the sentiment from this team they do really like what they have, and they think this offense they're going to put up a lot of points. So I mean, it's really really good signs, and just. You're hearing all the things you want to hear for the most part out of
Right.
spring practice so far. So
Yeah,
all you can ask for.
Yeah, that's all you can ask for right now. I think Garrett Riley, obviously, as you said, is saying all the right things. It seems when Dabo is asked that the offensive staff is gelling. These are not all Garrett Riley's guys, right? Most of these, most are these guys are, almost all of these guys are guys that were at Clemson, when he was at TCU last year. So it's good to hear that they're gelling. It's good to hear that they are, getting together, getting on the same terminology, really making a team together. It seems like, Dabo talked a little bit about their age and how a lot of them are the same type of age and how they're really being able to function well as a team and that sort of thing. So really encouraging stuff coming out of the Clemson offense. Again, we talked earlier about Mike Reed and some of the stuff coming out about the defensive staff and things like that. So, the defense seems hungry. They seem like they got a lot of unfinished business, and we're going to see where it goes. This is an opportunity for a different look Clemson team.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you think we want to wrap it up?
Yeah, I think we're going to wrap the show up tonight. We appreciate you guys all getting in here. We appreciate you guys hitting that like button, hanging out with us tonight, getting into the live comment section. We really do appreciate it. Again, we bring you guys this live show every Thursday at 7 p.m. Myself, Jordan Bowman, we like to chop it up about Clemson football, about college football in general. We get into other Clemson sports as well. As you guys heard tonight, we talked a little about basketball, talked about softball, talked about baseball, talked about all sorts of things tonight. We appreciate you guys getting in. We look forward to seeing you guys in the next episode. Jordan Bowman, go ahead and send our audience off.
Yeah, once again, thank you guys for tuning in. Great show tonight. Make sure you guys tune in next week. won't be a lot to talk about. Probably won't be any new spring nuggets because team is going on spring break this week.
Yep.
And so I think they won't be back practicing after this week till the 27th. So, but who knows? The things could happen in between now and then and we'll definitely have plenty of stuff to discuss. So make sure you tune in anyway. But yeah, once again, thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you guys next week.
As always, we will always have a great show for you guys. Make sure you guys check out the Voice of College Football merch that has been launched. Go check that out. But until next time, I am Tiger Paul Craven. He is Jordan Bowman. We'll see you in the next episode.
Later, guys.